Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact, where business technology meets startup innovation. And now, please give a warm welcome to your host, Brian Sparks!
Let's go.
Brian, thank you. You were scaring me. I'm glad we got that behind us because you said you were becoming hot today, and you did. I love it, 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 love it. Love it, love you. Wow. Thank you, Brian. Welcome to Silicon Valley Impact. I'm your host, Brian Sparks. The purpose of this show is to have honest conversations about what it takes.
Oops, they're still going. I can't believe it.
Brian, you got to tone it down a little bit. You just got them too hyped up. All right.
I'm ready.
The purpose.
I think I'm ready now.
The purpose. Can we power through this?
I think we're ready to start. You guys ready?
I know you don't like the readings, but I'm going to power through this.
You go right ahead. I'm listening with all ears.
Okay. The purpose of the show is to have honest conversations about what it takes to build great businesses and communities so that you can make an impact within your own. Today we have...
Did you hear that, Graham? Did you hear that?
We got...
His introduction as to what the show's for.
Yeah. We got to make that crystal clear.
I just want to... Because he's the guy that needs to hear that.
Okay. And needs a little hyping. And that's what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, that's all I'm saying.
Graham is here to set us straight on how to think and approach work, life, balance, startup, all things. You will meet him in a second. We have Behrouz here from Smart Nora. See, again, one of my missions in life is to be messy. I'm a recovering perfectionist, so I'm going to screw a lot of things up today. So bear with me. Just have fun with it.
I'm worthy of being here, and whatever I don't know, I can learn.
See?
Thank you, Mercedes.
Thanks, Mercedes.
Always set me straight. With that being said, Brian, let's bring in our guest. Graham, good to see you. Man, I've been pumped about today's episode. I love what you're doing with your hair. The beard, I've got that beard envy. So thank you so much for being here. Good to see you, buddy.
Man, it's incredible to be here. Just this intro alone got the vibe right. The whole energy of the room feels amazing. So I'm having a blast already.
All right, it's on par, right?
Let's go.
Let's go. I know
This is great.
You're gonna get us pumped up.
Plus, the people on radio can't see the new set, but we redesigned the set. So eventually, we're going to push people also over to YouTube so that they can see what's happening here at Podcast Studio.
I was going to actually intro that, Brian, because you did an amazing job with the set today. And yeah, it looks great. So go over to our YouTube channel, which I guess is to be
forthcoming.
Forthcoming.
Yeah, all the shows we've done before have been videotaped, and we're gonna roll them out. We just we wanted to build that
You're
anticipation. Yeah, totally.
Awesome. Okay, so we have Graham and Behrouz here. So Graham, let's jump right into it because I know you are a well of insight. Give a quick little intro to our audience of your background, what you're currently doing, and then we'll chat with Behrouz for a second, and we'll dive right into it.
Yeah, let's go. I'm a mental performance coach. I've been doing this, almost 25 years now. First couple decades of my career was basically all sports. Helped out a lot of athletes, worked with a few NBA teams. I've been the mental performance coach for the UConn Huskies the last 2 years. We've won back-to-back national championships. What I found, though, mental skills changed my life as a teenager. I got introduced to this stuff in the 90s, and it blew my mind. And I looked around and thought everyone would be doing this stuff. And I looked around and it seemed like nobody was doing it. And there were stereotypes against it with this work. Yeah. And so that's like someone saying water is not good for you, And I was like, this is bad. So my mission was to proactively teach athletes, teach kids this skill set so they could take it with them where they go. And it was an amazing experience.
Nice. And you call it mental
skills.
Mental skills. And you're right. There is kind of this stigma around that. So we'll talk a little bit about that, a little bit about your story. Behrouz with Smart Nora. Good to see you.
You're getting it.
I'm going to get it. I'm going to stop tripping over my tongue today and finally learned English myself. I just learned this morning, by the way. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your startup.
Yeah, so Smart Nora is here to help people stay asleep in the same bed until the morning. Oh. And as you would guess, it has to do with snoring and sleep apnea. So I'll tell you all about how we got started. But my own background is I come from the world of product design and design thinking and getting all the way down to the ground level, talking to people, saying actually what they need, and then building that.
Is this your first company?
this is my first company.
So this mental skills insight that we're going to get from Graham today may be a little useful, because I know that as a founder and CEO, you are put through the ringer. So Graham,
Very much.
tell us a little bit about what got you. I know there's a story. Like when you were very young, you saw something. Take us back to the beginning and what really turned you on to this.
I mean, really, I felt stuck in life. I don't know if anyone's ever felt that. I felt stuck, like life wasn't moving forward. And so I reached out for help, called my mom, and she said, "Did you know you can rewire your brain?" And that sentence was so powerful because I had no idea what she was talking about, but I heard hope. And so she introduced me to someone in San Francisco who started teaching me basically how your mind works. And it literally blew my mind. I learned how to be present. I learned how to breathe. I learned how to meditate. I learned affirmation, all this stuff. And it was just so incredible to me that I felt the calling to share this with people. Like I couldn't do anything else in my life but share what I'd learned.
So this was a purpose switch that was kicked on. And just we're gonna stay here in the beginning, but just to kind of leap forward, this is applicable not only to professional sports, but very much so, I mean, Behrouz, correct me if I'm wrong, to CEOs, to founders who are really put through the ringer.
Yeah, I mean, you hear this all the time from CEOs that it's an athletic endeavor to be an executive, because you need to perform most days of the year, right? And being mentally present means you have to be physically fit. There's no way you can do one without the other, for sustainably at least. And then what I just loved about your story, Graham, is there is something about who's around you and who believes in you.
Yeah.
Right? And you can do a lot more when somebody you actually count on believes that you can do more.
That's right.
It's empowering to a crazy degree. So I'm curious to see how you took that. It's beautiful that you took that and then now you're bringing that to other people. And
just the way you explain it, you're exactly right. CEOs are athletes. You're an athlete. I mean, and when you apply, when you look at like a founder or say someone trying to make the NBA, right? The numbers are you're not going to make it, right? That's what they say. Whatever, 95% of startups fail. Nobody makes it to professional sports. It's like 99% don't. So I love that. So
the odds are the same, huh?
It's the exact same.
Yeah.
It's the exact same. So when you go from sports to working with a startup or CEO, it's the exact same. The one thing I like about CEOs and startups in general, no one's physically trying to stop you, right? An athlete has opponents that are physically trying to stop them from doing things. When you're a CEO or a founder, it's only ourselves that can stop ourselves, which is the good thing.
Yeah.
Because if we learn to get out of our way.
It's actually, I mean, I love that analogy. I love playing volleyball for the reason that I find it's not a contact sport.
Right.
And all you can do is be amazing within your own team and have the best vibe in your own team. All you can do is pass the ball most strategically and the toughest way possible, but you can't touch your opponent, which is a lot in business.
Exactly.
You go everything short of actually physically, like you said.
Right. Like if someone came in this room and put you in a headlock and said your company's not going to work, that'd be a way different thing. But if you're sitting there at night and you're telling yourself I can't make it and you're working, we can help you get out of your own way.
Yeah,
right?
and that happens, right? We call it Silicon Valley and all over the world the imposter syndrome. But there's those internal dialogues that can really, you can compete with because you are pushing yourself outside the comfort zone, and you're competing with the market. A lot to go with that. But to kind of pick up where we left off, Graham, tell us, because I consider you one of the 1%ers in terms of coach. I mean, it's a saturated market. As you were saying earlier, people hear the word coach. It's not high on the priority list. Unless you're calling it something like sales strategy, go to market, something that's going to affect the bottom line. But really, it's like you were saying earlier, I don't know if we were on air yet, but there's this stigma around it. I don't have a problem. I can figure this out. I know what to talk. I know what to think. It's not me internally. It's externally. So there's this resistance to the idea of us a little bit how you kind of in the early years moved into this as a profession, because it just wasn't overnight.
Yeah.
And then you slowly started to learn the market more and more, and now you've emerged kind of as a 1%er coach globally. Take us back to those early stages where you really developed this skill set.
Well, I just like water, like I knew the value of mental training. So no matter what stigma was there weren't any jobs or any business, none of that fazed me at all. And I thought of myself like a startup. I was like, okay, I'm a startup. I'm maybe a little head in this coaching thing. People aren't maybe aware of it. So if I can stick with this,
and this was in the 90s, right? Or early 2000s?
1997 is when I got introduced to mental training. And I would say professionally, by 2003, I was all in with it. I was like, this is what I'm doing. And so what I thought since no one knew to ask for help, right? We weren't there yet where the market knew like, I need help, except for maybe 1 in 10 million would ask for help. I thought of myself like a teacher. And so I got good at just teaching these concepts. That's how I called them skills. And I would walk around and I would just teach. And I got really good at teaching in small amounts of time, just giving people value and then going away. And I thought if I do that for 10 straight years, this is going to happen. But I had to, if you have something good to offer, I got to get it to people so they have a taste of it. And so that was my goal with sports. If I can go help people win, then people will see what's going on.
So did you naturally were you in sports yourself and were just a great teammate? Or did you find yourself in a unique position and kind of just like an entrepreneur built it out from there?
I always loved sports, played basketball in high school, played in college at UC Santa Cruz. And I think I have an entrepreneurial spirit because when I saw that no one was doing mental training and there was a stigma against it, I knew I had gold, right? What I basically knew was I was first and that no one even knew this was a market. And so I was like, this is exciting to me.
Okay, Brian, did you see that? Graham's eyes light up when he said stigma. There was a and most people will draw back, but you were like, no, this is gold. That was unique about you.
But we were having this conversation before we started rolling, and I think that it's just a human quality to have this. I don't know, or maybe it's an American quality
to lean in,
to have self-doubt and to like self-sabotage and there's a whole litany of things that we do against ourselves. We were talking about routine, right? Showing up and doing the work every day and being consistent. Like people struggle with that.
Yeah.
And Graham was saying that these are the things that he works with, right? I mean, these are the types of scenarios that you
But you
work
leaned
with.
in. You saw the stigma, and you're like, that's the opportunity.
I mean, when people saw stigma, I knew what they were looking at was gold. And I was almost like, you're pretending that's a stigma, right? And then I realized they weren't pretending. So I was like, oh my God. I had no choice but to do it. I knew this was going to work. And I don't mean, I don't take risks in life. I'm boring. This was just a boring bet that I knew was going to happen. I just was surprised no one else knew it.
Graham, did you feel like on the sports side, mental focus and visualizing and all that was ahead of the entrepreneurial side, or no?
I would say so. If you studied the really good athletes, like they were doing this stuff. Most of the time they weren't talking about it because they thought of it as an advantage. So most people that are heavily trained in this, they don't share it because they realize if I have it and you don't, I'm going to kick your ass.
Well, let's leap into that because that, again, lends a lot of credibility to what you've done, is that you found yourself in professional sports. And there was this time where the mental edge was an advantage. So how did you kind of crack into that rare market?
Yeah.
And how did you get buy-in at that level? And what do you think the difference is at that high level versus, the rest of us who are kind of in that middle?
Well, I love this question because I get asked all the time, like, how'd you make it to pro sports? And what I did was I helped kids make it to the NBA. So the NBA wasn't calling me because it wasn't ready. I would go work with a 14-year-old and be like, this person has an open mind. I'm teaching them. They don't know any different about a stigma. So I would help kids, and a few of them, like 12 of them, made it. A couple that you might know, Jaylen Brown just was the finals MVP for the Celtics. They won the finals this year, and he signed the largest contract in the history of basketball. And this is someone I'd been training since he was a teenager, just proactively helping him like a startup. Mm-hmm. So by the time he gets to his IPO stage, when it's time for a big contract, it's no problem for him. He doesn't lose his mind.
I have a feeling we're not going to run out of analogies here.
Yeah, but I just want to make a comment about Jaylen Brown because he just did a press conference about that contract and was so present and so grateful and so interested in giving back.
Come on.
It was
Do you see that?
Amazing. Absolutely.
He gets $300 million. No one in basketball has ever got that. And he's still abundant. It's not, I have to protect my money. Now, most people, they hit the first time, fear overwhelms them. They have no idea what happens when they actually find success. His mind is so expansive and he's so into this stuff. 300 million comes in, does nothing. 300 million when you're 27 years old, right? Wow. And all that's guaranteed. And if you met him when he was 15, you would have already known.
And he had the mental acuity to say, I'm going to use this for good in the world. I'm going to give back. I'm going to leverage this to make a difference.
So is that where it's began? Because Graham, you said that you find the kids that have an open mind. So whether they're an adult, a child, is that really the indicator that this person is coachable?
Put it like this. If I go talk to 20 people and I give a talk, well, as soon as I'm done, I just wait for the 2 people who come talk to me. And I go bet on them. Whoever they are, bet on these because they're like, hey, what's this? And I'm biased, but I'm like, if you do mental training, you're going to win. We call that the bottom line.
So they get curious. So the open mind comes to you. They want to know more, that abundant mindset.
That's right.
And we've had guests in here who have talked about the importance of abundant mindset. So to our audience and some of our guests, that particular idea is huge in terms of building something, creating something.
Yeah.
And so whether you're talking about the startup or you're talking about an MBA career, there's this curiosity of continuous growth.
That's
so
right.
once you see that, what is kind of your next play as a mental strategist?
I teach, and I try to make things, I teach the skill set, right? Make it super simple, right? The first skill is what's important now. And what's important now means let's focus on what you can control, let go of what you can't control. And the big thing you have to accept is I cannot control results. Everyone wants to control results. You can't. We've tried our whole life to control results. If we could control results, we'd have already figured that out. So the first thing is you have this total acceptance of I cannot control the thing that everyone's obsessed on. And if you can start to work on that, you start to free yourself to get into a powerful state. If you're anxiously trying to get a result, that's the best way to not get a result.
So how do you cultivate that? So let's park there for a second. Being in the moment, letting go of the results, how do you cultivate that consistent mindset? Because in startup, if I can go there and you can kind of chime in with the sports, is startups are consistently in survival mode. And so they need something. They need an outcome to happen in order for them to live now or live tomorrow. So there's this fear. There's this tunnel vision. So how do you get them to let go, be in the moment, and almost like let go of death? Because the startup could end tomorrow.
That's
right?
it. Well, the first thing is you actually say you're not going to die. So you see how you just said like it's all over, we're going to die? None of that's even remotely close to factually correct. You'll feel uncomfortable, but you're not going to die. So we have to live in truth. Our life is not on the line whatsoever.
So reframe that survival mode.
You're not in survival mode.
As a startup.
Now, if I'm working with the U.S. Navy, we can use that language, right? Because it's a whole different caliber.
Yeah.
If I'm just, again, no one's physically stopping me. Our startup fails, no one's going to attack you. You're just going to feel uncomfortable and then move on. So you start with that. If you don't want to live in that reality and you pretend you're in danger and it's all on the line, then you're going to live in fear and operate from that. So the first thing we want to do is get out of anxiously running to a result out of fear, telling ourselves we're in danger. First thing we say is, fuck it, we're not in danger. Seriously. We say, if I die today,
I'll
I
bleep
die.
it.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
For the radio.
But that word is powerful sometimes, and I mean that sincerely, because what if you're stuck in a thing where you're like, oh, I am going to die, right? You're like, it's not close. Get out of that cycle. So we work on helping people live in a space where you go, listen, nothing's going to happen if this doesn't work. So with a great athlete, bad athlete says, I've got to score. We've got to win here. Great athlete says, we may not win, but we're going to give everything we have, and we're okay with that. That's like if you're going to fight someone and someone says, if I die today, I die. Don't fight that person.
So a question on that. You can cultivate that more and more with experience because you can observe that you did not die, right?
Right.
Easier later in your career. Like I'm saying this after running my company for 7 years. We had this moment actually talking to my brother and my co-founder. We're like, this was like a few years ago. We're like, weren't we in a 3-month runway, but for 24 months? So we were not in a 3-month runway. We always figured it out, but it always felt like its the end is right there. Right. And we did make some decisions very cautiously, right? And then once we just observed our own history, we're like, okay, I guess we're not gonna die. Right. And it changed everything. And we started making bold bets and things moved differently. So my question is, how do you condense that? Because I can say it, but I can learn from my own lived experience and having gone through those feelings, scar tissue and all that, right?
Yeah.
So how do you teach someone with less experience to absorb this lesson, or how do you simulate that for them?
Man, if I went and talked to 10 startups, I would look for the one person that was looking at me saying, I want to do that. So we call this proactive mental training is you don't wait till you're in a crisis to figure it out. you have the wherewithal to be competitive enough to say, this matters. And I'm going to go get it before eventually you'll have the realization you're not in danger, right? Of course, because you didn't die after something didn't work. But if you can open your heart up before and say, I can see this before we get into that, and you have that vision, which to me is rare. It's rare, right? In a crisis, you'll figure it out. Most people turn to this in a crisis. Like if you're about to die, let's go do it, because you have nothing to lose. But if you can do it,
that when you saw the opportunity to educate the bias around mental training, you leaned in. And you were saying, because through your own experience, this is worth doing. It blew my mind. I know it can help. There's almost like there's two things. There's finding value in the opportunity, and you say, this is worth fighting for, number one, and dying for. Like, you know, whatever the outcome is, I'm all in. And then there's this empathy where it's like, if this was important to me, I got to believe this is important to others. And so you're willing to lean into that challenge or that resistance that people are originally going to give you. So there's the value in the empathy. How am I tracking you?
You're doing great. I mean, what I say is victory goes to the vulnerable. And so if you can lean into vulnerability, profound victory comes your way. These are just training concepts. People know it lifting weights, right? You lift weights, your muscles burn. Most people say that's a positive thing, and you kind of embrace it. Most of the time, vulnerability, people rejected that, not knowing that was the mechanism for greatness. They didn't know they were in the gym.
Say that again for those in the back of the room.
Most people are avoiding vulnerability, not realizing that's the mechanism for greatness. So they're thinking they're safe not being vulnerable. That's walking into the weight room and refusing to work out, thinking I just got stronger.
Now, what does vulnerability mean? Like, I mean, I can look it up and tell you what it means. I can tell you what it feels like. But from this standpoint, you're kind of equating it to those in the weight room, those in battle, those in sports. There's a vulnerability moment. What does that mean to somebody who hears it and goes, I'm not going to be vulnerable. I'm not going to be weak.
Ask yourself this: what's harder, being vulnerable or not being vulnerable?
What's harder? There's a lot of strength behind the term of I'm going to be hard.
Which one's more challenging, to lean into vulnerability or to avoid it?
Oh, I get exhausted resisting it. Yeah.
So leaning in means you're tougher. So if someone's like worried about being tough, you say, well, if you're not being vulnerable, we'll never call you tough. And that's how I talk to the U.S. Navy when I work with admirals. They're like, we don't want to be vulnerable. I guess you're not very strong. And they don't like that. But I'm like, it's the truth.
I love that reframe.
It's the truth.
That's the challenge.
And there's one more way I find that reframe is interesting, that you can say, yes, you can. I love the showing up to the gym and not putting yourself through the pain of doing, like, ripping some muscle fibers so you can rebuild. And then when you think about it, you're like, okay, if I keep doing that for years, what happens? I'm just gonna wither away, basically, right? Like, I'll never get stronger. So I think as soon as you change the time frame, like, it's comfortable for today, but it really sucks in 3 years.
This is what I'm hearing is this is where emotional intelligence happens. That's
really big. When someone's saying, I want to be comfortable today, it's like a bad credit card. You're like, no problem, you're going to pay for that later. And we're not saying, when we say victory to the vulnerable, we're not saying be vulnerable for 24 hours a day. We're saying, how about 5 minutes today?
Yeah.
How about 5 minutes? Just try that. Maybe that's speaking in front of a group and you're uncomfortable talking. Maybe that's acknowledging, I don't know if my startup's going to make it. Just living in that truth.
But Graham, don't you think that sometimes when we're vulnerable or the resistance to vulnerability is due to the fact that we're afraid people are going to capitalize it, maybe take advantage of us? It's going to disincentivize the people that work for us or that are following us, that it shows, or that the fear is that it shows some sense of weakness or inability.
Man, I remember when the Navy Admiral said almost word for word what you just said. I said, do this. Go try it. Because usually someone's saying that, they've never done it, right? They're like, no, but couldn't all these things happen? And I say, have you ever tried it? And they say no. And I say, since you don't know, how about you go check it out one time?
That's the fear talking, yeah.
How about you? Because fear is really logical. Fear will have so much evidence of telling you why not to do something. Then you ask them, have you ever done it? And they say no. I say, well, you can't say what's going to happen, can you? Because we have to be intelligent.
Yeah.
Now, if you can predict the future and know the future, what are we doing here? Let's go to Vegas. This is easy. Just make some, if you know. So what I tell people is, if they're avoiding vulnerability for those logical reasons, try it one time. And if it doesn't work, you can live the rest of your life avoiding this stuff.
Oh, victory. Okay, so let's earmark that. Victory to the vulnerable. So to kind of back up a little bit, you're training the youth. You look for those who are open-minded. Those are the ones who are teachable. As you kind of move along in your career, you're starting to see results. These kids are growing up. They're starting to position themselves for success and land in the pros. What was kind of your professional development at that point once you started to see results happening?
Man, when you start to see the results and first of all, the results got bigger than I could ever imagine. That's how you know you're doing this right. If you can count your results, you're not having big. You want to have results that blow your mind. They're so astronomically big, you can't logically explain how it's happening. I just kept serving and giving and watching the magic happen and it just kept reinvigorating me to stick with it and to see, like, where is this going? Why was I called to do this work? I mean, I answered the call, but like, where is this going?
Yeah.
I didn't know these kids were going to be who they were. And then it happens. And then about 10 years ago is when all the companies started calling me. They're going, hey, we're seeing what you're doing. Can you start to train our staff? Sales were the first ones to reach out.
Well, so for those listening who have startups and those who are, wanting to get in coaching and have a little bit more impact, there's kind of a leap there. You're dedicating 10,000 hours, we'll call it, right, into these youth, and then you're getting the call. What was kind of your way of positioning yourself and going to market with these insights that really put you on their radar?
Well, I looked at myself like a startup. There was a company called Lucid that we had $2 million poured in. I was the voice of it. This was 2016. We were a tech startup in San Francisco. So I got to live the whole thing. Got to be in the fundraising meetings, got to see how scared everybody was, got to see how shook everyone gets when things get real, got to see people who are doing it for a job, not a purpose. I got to see the whole thing. That company didn't make it. And so we had $2 million and didn't make it. And what I learned from that was so profound. And that helped me with the next thing I did. And I'm basically five or so failures in to scaling mental training.
And so you're seeing mental training applicable in all these different areas of life, to the youth, pro sports, startup, your role, fundraising, personal relationships. It's transferable, and you were honing your skill.
Yeah.
And then you got the call, do you want to come talk with us? Do you want to come do a training with us?
Yeah.
How did you take advantage of that opportunity?
Man, I mean, sales was the first one. Sales teams started to call because they were like, sales and athletes is very similar, right? Lots of failure. You get rejected all the time. You got to deal with all that. So I started to communicate. I would do workshops with like sales teams, and then people would call me after, like ex-police officers, and they'd be like, man, if I had this, I'd still be a cop. I would still be able to do stuff. And it started to hit me. I was like, whoa, a lot of people don't have this stuff. And then more and more sales companies.
But what was happening? Okay, so that was interesting. So there was a breakdown. You said, if I had this, I'd still be doing that. What was it that was missing? What was the pain point?
A lot of people are in a reactionary state to life.
Yeah.
Right? They're just react. We call it Paul it. Palms down is being able to skillfully choose your response. And what we found that's what I noticed with a lot of like police officers, people under pressure, they were reacting a lot to fear.
I did that to my girlfriend the other day. Palms down. I got in trouble.
Got in trouble. Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know if I can use that.
Now, if you were doing it telling her to be quiet, you should get in trouble.
Yeah.
If you were telling yourself to choose your response, that's okay.
Yeah. Okay, good.
If you're telling her, that's not how we play.
It's circumstantial. Okay, good.
Yeah.
Note to self.
So just you would see the similarities from people living in basically, like a fearful reactionary state. You see it all the time. Like, just think of what Brian was saying about vulnerability. Like, I say, hey, go be vulnerable. No, I can't be vulnerable. This and this and this, and that's palms up. Where palms down is like, am I in danger of being vulnerable right now? I know I feel terrified, but am I actually in danger?
Yeah.
No. So I have to live in the reality of this weirdness of I feel like I'm going to die, but I'm not close to it. Why are we designed like this?
So I like that palms up. I like body language.
Yeah.
It's almost like you put your oxygen mask on first, and if you can show self-control, if you can show self-management, composure, you then can turn to someone and give it to them.
And see what you just did right there? You're giving your energy to other people all the time.
And it's palms up.
Most of the time it's like this, our life's on the line, it's not gonna make it, make the sales. And I'm like, what you just passed to that person was so detrimental. And in your mind, you might think, well, I'm motivated, I care, life's on the line. You're doing none of that, right? You're just reacting out of fear and saying, you take it, I hope you get it.
Yeah.
And so when we look at a leader, the word CEO for me stands. After you spread the good energy, we do stuff that helps you sleep at night. We do water widgets or whatever it is. But if you don't have the right energy, all you're transferring is that currency to everyone you work with.
So we're seeing.
Sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
So we're seeing that there's a parallel between professional sports and CEOs. So how do you, a CEO comes to you, a professional athlete comes to you, where do you begin to work with them? What does that look like? I mean, you said you worked with the teams originally, but it's usually that now it's that top performer.
Yeah.
Do you sit them down and give them a pep talk, or is there a process? How does that look?
Yeah, I mean, I have a foundational skill set that we teach. We start with the first skill is what's important now, which is just know what's in your control, and we start there. And then second one is being present. We call it play present. If you're not here, where are you at? Like you're missing everything. So if you're focused on what you can control and you're present, that's it. Like that's the name of the game. That's really hard to do, right? That's hard. So the next two skills are the ones where the grittiness comes in. The next one's called next play speed, which is when you lose your focus and get onto something out of your control, how fast can you come back? How fast can you recognize you're gone and you can bring yourself back? So if you're like,
rewind that case. First three. First one is
what's important now?
What's important
now?
now?
In your control?
What the second one was?
Play present,
and then next speed.
Next play speed.
Next play speed, and that's if you go off kind of track, how back can you get back on track?
How fast can you fail, essentially?
How fast can you fail?
Do you fail and that's it? Or do you fail and you bounce back, get the lessons, and come right back to the present into what's in your control?
So, Behrouz, I'm gonna kick it back to Behrouz. He's got a question, but I'm curious.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm curious. How do you integrate that? Like, I'm hearing it, and I go, okay, I know, I can see that intellectually now, but how do you work with them and integrate that so they can practice it, taking it from the objective to the subjective in the moment?
Yeah. It starts with awareness. Awareness activates your ability. So I'm a teacher at first. Like a lot of people won't be aware of this, so you teach, and then after that, it's repetition that retains your realization. So we're going to go practice this stuff. So if today we worked on, so I was like, okay, Brian, we're working on vulnerability. I say, okay, now you got to go practice that. What do you do in the next couple of days that we can intentionally go get vulnerable with? And we would set a goal.
Got it. So Behrouz, you had a question, and then Brian, come back over to you.
Yeah, it was mostly like something. It's around again, understanding the value and the cost you pay for these things, right? Like being in an agitated state puts your team, anyone you're interacting with, all of them in an agitated, like that just spreads like wildfire, and it's so expensive.
Yeah.
And this idea of like, imagine then doing that and then burning out and being absent.
So you're saying that when we're looking at the professional athlete who may be the leader of the team or a starter, the CEO, if they don't get themselves under control, that same mentality, that palms up mentality is going to spread like wildfire.
Because the worst you can do is like give that agitated energy to someone who doesn't have the authority to actually change the rules.
Yeah.
And then they have to play within that framework, and like that can be so damaging.
Oh, and there goes innovation, creativity, team, everything. Oh,
Everything.
I love that point. Brian, you had something.
It's going back a few beats, but there's something I think in tennis called the Matador Walk. Are you familiar with this? Have you heard this before?
No, teach me.
The Matador Walk is when there's a point that's gone badly and didn't go well. The tennis player turns around, turns his or her back to their opponent, and takes that moment of walking from being closer to the net back to the baseline. And this is it's a very short amount of time, but this is their moment of recovery.
That's right.
That they have that very physical distance to cover where they're going to recover from the mistake that they just made or the bad play and serve again or receive a serve and have a fresh new start.
That's right.
And it's a very short amount of time. They call it the Matador Walk, where you've basically literally turned your back on the problem, you've walked back, you've cleared the space in your mind, and you're ready for the next point. Which I think in putting it into practice, if we all had that mechanism,
that's it.
It'd be pretty cool.
And I'm hearing it in football and sports. The best of the best have short memories. and the short memory is, you have the play or the pitch,
right?
And then it's.
I think that's
Pitchers
you're
are
trying
supposed
to
have short memories.
Yeah, I think Brian is trying to get himself in his short memory forgetfulness attached. Yeah, that's good. That's a good spin.
Actually,
I love that spin.
Oh yeah, that's an asset. That's an asset for you, Brian. Hey, with that, I'm just going to, if I may, I'm going to introduce just a very short break so that we can thank some of our sponsors.
Let's do it.
The conversation's amazing so far, and we'll get back to it in just 1 second.
All right, we're back again. We're here with Behrouz and Graham, and we just left off, Graham, with the first three things that you kind of focus on when it comes to professional athletes, CEOs. You talked about the importance of what's important now.
Yeah.
I keep forgetting the third one.
Next play speed.
Well, that was the third one, right? What's important now?
Play present.
Play present.
Next play speed.
Next play speed.
Palms down.
Palms down. Is that the fourth one?
So think of how they work, right? Say something happens. You feel an initial reaction, right? And all you do is you catch yourself. You say, okay, let me choose my response. It's the opposite of how you feel when you choose your response, because you feel like doing this, right? This feels like the natural thing. You take your breath, choose your response. Now your next play speed is faster. You're already coming back quick. You're back in the present. You feel your feet on the ground. You know your mind is racing. You go, I don't have to follow those thoughts. What's in my control right now? How I respond to this person right here.
So you go back. Yeah, let it sink in. Yeah. So you bring yourself back to what's important now. That's how you position yourself for choices, resourcefulness. Is that what you're?
That's exactly it. And so all we're trying to do is be fully present, focused on what we can control. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything more than that, right? Now that's the challenge. So palms down and next play speed help you with that. Victory to the vulnerable powers that. God, I feel so vulnerable. Okay, choose my response. How are we doing here? And in that moment, we call this a swordless samurai moment. You're a warrior in that moment because you're winning a crazy fight. Mm-hmm. This is a loss, a devastating loss, potentially why companies end.
He's got palms up.
Devastating loss if you pass that energy to your team, right? Devastating. This, you might take a loss today, like something didn't work, but you're winning as a team because of just energy.
Let me again slow it down. You're in the palms up moment. You're asking yourself, what's important now? I got to ask, is it looking to focus on something, or is it the letting go of the previous? Because a lot of people will say, or I'll struggle with this myself. I'll say, what do I do? Yeah. What do I focus on now? I don't have a point of direction. I don't have a horizon right now. I don't have. Mm-hmm. I can't even find the instruments in my plane. Is it just like, no, what's important is letting go of the last thing, or is it finding something new to focus on, or is it a combination or neither?
All you have to do in that moment is breathe. It'll be some of the hardest stuff you ever do, because different than athletes, like what Brian said, athlete can quickly get on to the next point. There's something else coming. You might not have something else coming as an entrepreneur for a while, so you have to sit there with that.
I think it's such a challenge to not accept a bad option as the next thing, because, I mean, you could immediately pick another option. I don't know, like your main vendor just drops you and you need another vendor. Mm-hmm. You can definitely find a horrible one and stick with them and like ruin your business if you just want to jump onto the next option. So sitting in, accepting like, you know what, we don't have a good option, and somehow keeping your standard actually at the level it should be, rather than whatever the next best thing is around. I find that takes practice.
That would be vulnerable right there. If you're wondering what,
and that's the vulnerability you're talking about.
That would be the victory. You don't react panic to the thing that's wrong. You could say, I'm going to breathe and be, man, I feel vulnerable day after day just being in this. But you know you're doing the right thing. And then later on, you link up with the right vendor, bam, there's your victory. And you're like, that was it. Like,
I get it.
You did it.
And so here is the challenge. I mean, if I can create a contrast, for a startup, you could be waiting months. Right, it could be a long period of time, respectively. For an athlete, it could be seconds. How, as just an average Joe, could you learn to, in seconds, let something go, or for months? I mean, what's the until? How do you play with time?
Man, well, I like to look at it like you have to actively pursue this, right? Mm-hmm. This is something that you have to actively try to pursue, to work on this kind of stuff, because different than sports, right? It's much different. You may not have something in the next 10 seconds to do it. So just setting your intention to practice this, to look for opportunities to practice this. I mean,
and being vulnerable is what you mean by practicing it.
Yeah. And just attempting to focus on what you can control.
And being intentional. It's not just being vulnerable. It's reminding yourself throughout the day, moment by moment, to be intentional about who you want to show up and be.
Yeah. Behrouz, go ahead.
No, I'm saying also as an athlete, when you go through, like you miss half a season to an injury.
Yeah.
There you go. Like now you have to sit.
That can be painstaking. Yeah.
Right. You have a bad option of going down a spiral. You have a good option of exercising the limbs that you can.
Right.
And knowing that when your injury is coming, like once it's gone, then you will have a hard path ahead of you. But would you rather go kind of weaker all over or keep everything else strong? I find that about like, hey, I don't like this function of the company is not there for now. We lost something. Everybody else should stay fit. If we all stop working out, we're going to be worse off when that also comes back online. So we might as well just keep everything else in line.
So Graham, we're getting short on time. Give us are those 4 the main ones you work on, or are there a couple more that you kind of
Those are your foundational ones that under the most immense pressure are there for you. Under the most immense pressure, what's in my control? How am I doing being present? That's all you got to do. You just lean right into that. You have all the skills. You know what to do. You just got to show up and be present. The next play, speed and palms down, just assures that you don't bail on yourself. So those are undefeated. Those 4 skills, if you apply them, are undefeated.
I love next play speed. That one's I'm going to be focusing on all day. And so what is there any other takeaways that we can have before we pivot to Behrouz real quick and hear about his startup, because I know he's eager to integrate some of these things. What other tips do you provide these startups, these professional athletes, top military officials who are talking to you, CEO, executive? What are some of the high level insights in terms of these mental skills?
Well, I think one of the main things for me was when I learned how to train with this, you have an opportunity to make huge gains in this space when you're triggered, right? So when you're in your feelings or you feel vulnerable, that's the moment where we can have massive breakthroughs. So when I coach people and work with teams, we're in real time with each other. This isn't, hey, I'll see you next Friday at noon. This is a text, hey, Graham, I'm in it right now. And we try to get together in the next hour, because in those moments, you can make the hugest transformations.
So hang with me on this one. So the unicorn growth is in the biggest pain point.
Victory to the vulnerable is real.
Yeah. I love that. So Behrouz, tell us a little bit about Smart Nora, what you're doing now. Give us some of your insights in terms of how you've grown this company. What's next for you? Give us in the moment insights.
In the moment. Where are we in the moment? So just a quick intro. So Smart Nora, it's a comfortable and contact-free solution for snoring and sleep apnea. We're in the market right now only for snoring, and that sleep apnea part is in the near future. We really, as a company, our mission is couples sleep together and having a healthy sleep and relationship, that everything comes from that, and protecting sleep continuity. So really the number one enemy of sleep continuity is snoring and apnea.
Wow.
Right? And the main point is you don't get recovery, mental, physical recovery, without continuous sleep, because you need to go through multiple cycles of your sleep. Right? If I disrupt your sleep every 2 hours, you basically miss out on a whole bunch of benefits of sleep.
Yeah. So kind of paint a picture for our audience who is listening in right now. What does this device look like? What is the user experience? You have it here. It kind of looks like a giant.
I'll give it to Graham to describe Graham, what is in your hands?
It looks like a little computer mouse.
Yeah, almost exactly like a little mouse. Like what we would. Like,
there you go.
Perfect. That's what it is.
So we call that the Pebble. It's kind of, we designed it to be, can fit in any bedside table and look nice. Wow. So that's the microphone. That's the whole intelligent. That's the brain of Nora. What we do there is we monitor your breathing patterns overnight. So we listen to breathing, and we will know, because of our machine learning algorithms in there, when you're about to start snoring. Because your airway goes from the normal open position to partially collapsed. That's where vibrations start.
And this just sits on the side of the bed?
This is just on the bedside.
On the bedside, okay.
And then there's a pad that goes under your pillow. You keep your own pillow. And this pad, at the right time, very slowly rises and falls down.
Oh, wow.
And what does that do? It activates the muscles that support our airway. So you go from a partially collapsed airway that's vibrating to the normal position. Wow. And nobody snores when you're awake. You can sleep on your back, on your side. You don't snore. because the muscles are engaged. With age and maybe gaining weight and all that stuff, over time, we just have softer muscle tissue. And that's how it all happens.
So where were you when you came up with, I mean, this is your device. There's proprietary technology around this. What is kind of your user base right now? How many people are using this? Are there any hurdles that you got to go around in terms of fill in the blanks. I'm drawing a blank right now.
Yeah. So we started it because we needed it. That's kind of the origin story. I'm a product designer by education and by kind of my work history. I was in San Francisco at IDEO, actually IDEO.org, which is a nonprofit sister of IDEO, the design agency. And I've done water distribution projects in Congo. I've done agriculture in Ethiopia. I've done reproductive health in Zambia, so on and so forth. So it's like 7 different sectors, 7 different countries. That was kind of where I really cut my teeth. Talking to the user, launching something, watching it fail, and then eventually designing the right thing. I went back home to Toronto and realized that my father, who's a mechanical engineer, and we call him a very nosy mechanical engineer, basically the inspiration was, hey, sliding the hand under the pillow is the most humane way to stop the snoring, but who has the patience to do that all night? Right. So why don't we automate it? So that was the idea. I did the industrial design for the product. We kind of put it together, and then my brother Behrouz had already joined. So he's a great marketer and jack of all trades. Great guy for special projects, we call him. So we put it together, and any room we would enter, half the room would like, I need it, and so do like 5 of my uncles. Wow. So we decided to just put it on Kickstarter. And we did, and we raised $1 million in 30 days, and the rest is history.
Now, I've had a few conversations with you. I met you at an event, heard you pitch. I didn't hear that little nugget that you pretty much came up with the solve from your dad saying, this is how you do it. And it sounds like, of course, I mean, if you got the other perspective, the wife, it's, the knee in the back, and that wakes you up. But he gently would slide the hand right on the pillow, kind of give it a little rate, and that was kind of the genesis of the idea. Yeah. Very interesting. And so how long has this company been around? Where are you guys now? What is your ARR? How are things going? And give us kind of the health of the company.
Yeah. Short up to giving you the ARR, I'll tell you everything else. So we have been in market for 7 years. We've been the #1 snoring solution selected by Wirecutter for 4 years in a row.
Nice.
Oprah says, if you snore, you would love Smart Nora. And we have more than 100,000 customers. So it's very much out there. And it's been that different offering compared to the invasive stuff and the snake oily stuff. It's such a crowded market. So we love it, actually, because this is a common sense solution. You think about it, you're like, yes, this did work. I tried it on my partner last night, but I ran out of patience, and then it ended up with someone leaving the bedroom eventually. So that's kind of how we've grown the company. So we started with crowdfunding it, and we bootstrapped it, and we have some of our own customers invest the company, which is really fun. We have emails sent to our support emails like, hello, can I invest in the company? Wow. Because it has actually changed my life, and my marriage has been like much improved, and like all that. We have a ton of great stories like that.
Wow. So what's next for the company?
So the next thing is we have this platform. We are solving snoring for tons of people out there. And what has happened, I mean, it's an amazing place to be because the sleep market is just maturing, and it's becoming something very integral to digital health, right? When we started, we had to explain to people what is a sleep apnea. We don't have to anymore. When we started, the best sleep data you would get was actually still from the sleep lab for a couple of nights that you actually don't sleep like yourself because you have all this kind of gizmo attached to you. Now you can get days, months of sleep data from home, and that is actually very valuable for looking at different things because anomalies in sleep patterns is very telling of what's happening.
What's coming to mind really quick is, does this replace the sleep apnea mask? Or can you say that in terms of...
No, I squarely say we don't, because we are right now in the market only for snoring, right? And that's kind of the indication of use. But obviously people put that together. Yes, like the natural extension of this could be that. You could talk to your doctor, and we have people who have been intolerant of their CPAP.
So this is like a supplement. You would say, I mean, if you...
This is a non-medical over-the-counter product.
Right. You can't say it's medication, but it's a supplement.
No, I would say it as because snoring is a non-medical issue, apnea is a medical issue.
That's what I'm saying.
So that's where the line is.
So the mask, the sleep apnea, that's provided by a doctor. That's recommended.
That would be prescription. Yeah.
But this would be kind of like a supplement. If I just want to take extra vitamin C, I can just go.
You can just get it from the drugstore.
Yeah, it's not prescribed.
I want to point out also that there are other non-prescription over-the-counter solutions for snoring that are much more invasive. And so if people weren't really paying attention to how you described the product, it is a very non-invasive. Nothing goes in your mouth or down your throat or up your nose.
Yeah.
And so it seems like a great solution for people that won't ever be able to sleep well with something that's jammed into their face.
Yeah. Actually, let me maybe this is good PSA. So what has been actually studied and proven to work, the mouth guards do work because they're physically pulling your jaw forward, creating more space for your airway. Except you're dealing with jaw pain when you wake up. People actually wait an hour before they eat breakfast. Like we know this from conversations with thousands of customers. And your gum line can recede. You can have like misalignment on your teeth because you're physically exerting this force every night.
Wow.
Everything else, nose strips and and taping your mouth, all that stuff. Yes, there are some benefits, but none of them have been studied and proven to have like a significant effect. So it's basically between these two solutions. We have an active solution that activates the muscles, and there are some other solutions like that. But the biggest difference with us is, okay, this is an AI-enabled device actually. So we are learning your sleep patterns. We are reacting to how you progress over the night and when we should actually intervene. And now the next thing that we are doing, and we will be rolling this out soon, is we are monitoring your breathing every single night. So why don't we actually keep an eye out for potential risk of sleep apnea? We won't diagnose you, but we will get you to diagnosis.
And I think this is worth repeating. This is not medical advice. This is not a substitute. This is just another option on the market.
Hold on a second, Brian. Are you saying you're not a doctor?
I am not a doctor.
All right, fair.
Yeah, thank you. I'm not, but as someone who could potentially use this product, I could I could go buy this just over the counter.
Go to smartnora.com
and buy it. Okay, so what has been some of your struggles bringing this to market? I'm sure investors are saying, well, go get this approved. You need to cross all these hurdles, but what have been some of your hurdles you've overcome in terms of bringing this to market and generating sales?
I think the first was actually that choice. Like, do we try to go the medical route or not? And we decided to not because we would have had to give up so much already. And we realized that, the reason we actually did the crowdfunding was our handmade prototypes that were not so beautiful. People wanted to pay for them. Oh, wow. Like we would go after 1 week and say, hey, okay, how was your experience? Like, it's great. Can I keep it? It's like, okay, either we are going to keep making more of these handmade prototypes or let's do a Kickstarter and go from there. So we knew that's the path. That's one decision we made. And then it has exposed us to so many opportunities because when your product is out there, people come to you rather than you going to people. So that has been wonderful. Generally, growing a hardware product business is harder because of what you need to do. We actually spent 41 nights in China when we were getting the first version out, and we thought we were going to spend 1 week. We're like, great. We had multiple trips. We went back, and we thought this is the last visit before the first batch comes out. We stayed until Christmas morning, and we got the products shipped, which was amazing. Like they ended up under Christmas trees for that year.
Nice.
So that's the second part, having a hardware product, but that also turns out to be your moat. Because you get to optimize, you get to choose material, you get to kind of do all these things that add to a very resilient product and very durable product over time. And for someone to start, they need to learn all of your lessons.
Now, we're getting short on time. I think we have about 3 minutes left, 4 minutes left-ish. One thing I wanted to talk quickly about is you're based here in Silicon Valley now, but you didn't start here.
Yeah.
A lot of our guests who are highly successful have immigrated to Silicon Valley, and you're part of that profile.
Yeah, I'm a double immigrant. So I grew up in Iran. I moved with my whole family, actually. We moved to Toronto, Canada, in 2002. So that was immigration number one. And then I worked here in 2013-14, and then went back and we started the company actually in Toronto, which is a great ecosystem. global talent, but also our immigration policies really kick ass. So you can actually get someone on a work visa in 2 months to come to Canada. So that's a great benefit. But then as the business grows, I mean, all of our sales are, for kind of all intensive purposes, are in the States. So it really makes sense to grow the business here. And now my investors and my advisors and all are in Silicon Valley. For digital health, I should either be in Boston or in the Bay Area.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
here we are.
And here you are. So what's the best way that people can check out your device should this be applicable to them?
Just go to smartnora.com and then just ask your partner to gently move your pillow tonight. And they will tell you, damn, this worked, but I don't want to do it every night.
Nice.
Yes.
Two things. I got to just, first of all, for snorers, this is an amazing gift to give to their partner with whom they share a bed. Right.
Indeed.
Instead of being told and maybe henpecked or whatever about you snore. My wife punches me, and I don't like that. And so to get back onto the points that that I know Graham focuses on, a good night's sleep and a healthy relationship with your partner are also going to be factors in your ability to succeed and be productive. And so I think that there's just a ton of good here that you're offering.
That's massive. Yeah. I mean, from your personal performance, memory, all that stuff. Like, we don't even need to list them anymore because we live now in that culture.
Yeah. And so sleeping, eating, and exercise, right, are pretty key components.
Foundation.
And if you're snoring and your partner is punching you in the night and neither one of you is sleeping and you both wake up irritable at each other's throats a little, it makes everything a little bit more difficult. That is a palms up situation.
I love it.
Right out of the gate.
I love it. So Behrouz, how can people connect with you?
With me, just on Twitter, find me at _Behrouz.
Okay. You don't do LinkedIn?
Let's go to Graham.
Yeah, let's go to Graham. Graham, how can people connect with you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, just under my name, and Capitola Coaching.com. You can
find me on LinkedIn too.
Yeah, LinkedIn. Okay, yeah, no pressure.
A reluctant networker there.
I love it.
I think that's it. Yeah, Brian?
I love it. All right,
You
Brian,
feeling good about it?
I love it.
Really
Graham,
good.
Behrouz, thank you so much for being here
This
today.
was fun.
Awesome. This is
I love
amazing.
it. And that's a wrap. Thank you for listening to Silicon Valley Impact. You can join us every Tuesday, 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. Make sure to follow us on Silicon Valley Impact on Instagram as well as on LinkedIn. You can connect with me, Brian, at siliconvalleyimpact.com. We'll see you next week.